nobody's really going to know what it's really never been done. I've attended the meetings. They're talking about housing ill inmates, or they consider critically ill, but they refuse to define critically ill. This could be a mental illness. This could be something else. They further state that they're going to put people in their pre-trial that can't afford their bail. Horrible. They have a below average recidivity rate in their programs that they've been running since 1967, yet the city continues to fund them. That's a whole nother story. But I challenged at one of these meetings the Fortune Society that in this day and age, what a heinous crime you have to commit to actually get bail in the first place. And if you committed this crime, how critically ill can you actually be that you now want to take these people and put them in our community? So, again, on a law enforcement aspect, that's going to astronomically increase the number of calls to this particular facility. They further say there's going to be a security guard in the lobby. You're housing inmates. Now, we're not talking about formerly incarcerated. These are people that were being held on bail. And you're going to house them outside the purview of the corrections department with just a private security guard in the lobby. This is an absolute recipe for disaster, and I cannot even imagine the increased load it will put on the local precinct. Now, to further address this, we have to look at what they're doing to the police department at this moment in time. As we all know, this defund movement, this the cutting the police department. We are hemorrhaging officers now. Absolutely hemorrhaging. 2,000 last month left. They're leaving 15 years in without their pensions. They're leaving. They're finding other municipalities to put police officers, and many are just leaving to go into other fields because this is not just New York City, and not just New York State. So again, as Sandy said about the windows, so we'll put windows that don't open. So the city says we need to maintain our police force. Now they're kicking around this grand idea of lowering the standards. They're going to lower the standards. That's how we're going to keep our. What we're going to do now, that's going to lower the quality of our officers. We're going to have police officers that really shouldn't be. And as a former officer, there are very few on the job right now that maybe you might want to say maybe you shouldn't be. But by lowering the standards, you're only going to increase in the barrel. So the net result will be a less qualified police force responding to many more emergency and life-threatening situations. And this is an absolute and total recipe for disaster. And with that, I think I covered it. George.
Thank you for your service and for all the good deeds you do to our community, for our community, do to our community, right? That was a good one. But anyway, we got to keep it moving on. And, the bottom line is, quality of life is a big issue. And, I don't care what political party you belong to. Everybody wants a better quality of life. I mean, that's the bottom line. You go to bed at night, you want to be able to sleep without being interrupted by loud music and the thumps of bass coming from the waterways and parking lots. Right? Think about this. I mean, we're living in a community right now where I have people telling me they're afraid to put a piece of mail in a mailbox. Do you believe that? I mean, we can't trust a mailbox now? I mean, where are we going here? I mean, we definitely know that our quality of life is spiraling in a down direction. And it's only all of us that could put a stop to this and bring it back. All right, we can do this. I mean, it's not an unwinnable thing, but it can't be done if we're not unified. If we're all on the same page, We have to put some petty differences aside and work together. That's what has to be done here. All right? Now, the next speaker we have is going to be addressing the Jacoby project, or the Jacoby thing there with that Pat alluded to. And it's my pleasure to bring up Tiz Nastasio. Here you go, Tiz. Thank you.
Hi, how are you? I am from Community Board 11. I sit on the board. I sit on the Education Committee with Bernadette, and I'm also a member of the Public Safety Committee. I'm also a member of the 49th Precinct Council Executive Board. There's two articles that came out just last year. New York City jails medical staff fear for their safety from the inmates. Staffing shortage on Rikers spawning violent beatdowns. So if they're spawning violent beatdowns when they're still in jail, what are they going to do when they come out and live in our community? They're not going to have security guards. They're going to have security aides. And these people are going to have leases. But they're not going to be paying their own rent. Guess who's going to be footing the bill for their rent? They're allowed to have anyone they want come in and visit them. There's going to be absolutely no restrictions on who's allowed to visit. There are 5 elementary schools within walking distance of this project. So we can't have it. It has to be stopped. And I have to say, Marjorie is right on board with us. She has come out and said, absolutely not. And this is also going back to Councilman Jonai, because he knew about it in November and never said anything to the community about it. So that's another thing he laid off on Councilwoman Velasquez. So I do know she does support us. She does stand with the community. Hopefully we can get this stopped.
Thank you, Tiz. Still touching on the same project here, we're going to bring up Bernadette Ferrara from the Van Ness Neighborhood Alliance. She's been very instrumental in many, many things, and a good friend of mine. And it's a pleasure to give the mic over to her. Bernadette, here you go.
Yeah, Bernadette. Thank you, George. Thank you. I'm also part, along with Tiz. Oh, got a little feedback. At Community Board 11. So I've been serving on Community Board 11 since 2008, and I'm a lifelong resident of the Bronx, of Van Ness, and even before I was doing community service for years, dealing with supporting the Bronx Animal Shelter back since 2000. So all in all, obviously, I love where I live, and I love where everybody else lives, and we have been under attack, bottom line. And I'm going to piggyback, and I'm not going to repeat a lot of what was said, but Sandy, I have to say, I love your article. Sandy has always been somebody that I admire. She does her research, she does her homework, and there's a great article that she wrote in the Civic Center that I have here, and it was on May 2024, 20th, 2022, if you guys didn't read it. And it was almost going to be the same article I was going to say and do an op-ed saying, how did we get here? Okay, so read the article, but she goes into depth and detail. But bottom line, our communities are paying for decades of the city's mismanagement of the mentally handicapped, affordable housing, going back to, as it says here, from Governor Pataki. So we're going back a bunch of years. Okay, we're paying the price right now. So again, read the article, and it's very informative. With regards to Just Homes, if anybody does want a PDF of the actual, sorry, this is a PDF that was actually brought to the community on June 8th when it was given to the public. Also notice that anytime, and George said this, and please note, it is strategic when something this important gets brought to the community. It's always during a time when it's either in June before summer comes, and usually there are no more meetings in community boards. People are away. We're not going to have the right kind of representation, or it's usually the beginning of January around New Year's, or right before Christmas. This has been since 2018. So I'm going to point out two things. And bear with me. When I read articles that give half-truths, it puts me in a very bad mood. And it puts a lot of people in a very bad mood. So most of the articles, when I read these two particular points, says that Community Board 11 is the only community board that has no homeless shelters, and that's set by DHS. Well, excuse me, we have a hell of a lot of everything else. We are oversaturated, and I could basically tell you at least 30 addresses in Van Nest where the private homes are bought by citizens, regular citizens, but they're rented over to mentally and physically handicapped programs, halfway houses, three-quarter houses, men's programs, single men's, the list goes on. And this is with my research of going to where those addresses are. So I do know what I'm talking about. So when a reporter says that, what they are saying is not the whole picture. In the 5 boroughs, there are 6 other community boards that do not have any homeless shelters in them. 2 in Brooklyn, 2 in Queens, 2 in Staten Island. Community Board 11 is not the only community board. We have requested a family shelter in the areas on Blondell. That was denied. And most recently in 2024, White Plains Road, we said, give us a family shelter. We need a family shelter. Well, they can't do it at that location because of Department of Building Standards. Okay, so when everybody says, well, Community Board 11 is just, well, they don't really want shelters in their high-end communities. Well, excuse me, it's not that we haven't asked for it. And we have had the need with a lot of fire victims and families that are outside of our community now because there were no family shelters to help them. And so there's another thing that I want people to be aware of when you're reading articles. The radical left narrative, and it's a page out of their playbook, and you've heard it many times. They say communities have to take care of their own when it comes to affordable housing. And I kind of, it struck me right between the eyes. What does that mean? Communities have to take care of their own. Haven't we been doing that for the last couple of decades? We have been taking care of our own. We do bring our kids to the school. We take care of the schools. We take care of the churches. We help cleanups. We go to the civic associations. We do a lot of things. And not only this generation, but the generation before. The families that have been there in all areas of Community Board 10, Community Board 11. My family's been in the Van Nest area since 1920s. They're the ones that were at the groundbreaking at St. Dominic's Church. They were there giving money to the schools, Our Lady of Solace, St. Dominic's. They also brought the communities together. We have been taking care of our own. But what we are asking is that the things that we have been needing for decades, like community centers, Boys and Girls Club, like the Kips Bay Boys and Girls Club. You know, Pelham Parkway, Van Nest, and Morris Park has nothing for their children. Nothing. No community center. They did have the schools, but they're no longer there. What about senior housing? I've had 8 seniors in the past couple of years that had to go outside of the community. 8 of them. 2 of them passed away because they wanted to stay in the community. They want to stay in the place they have put their money, their time, and their effort, and they have built up. So when somebody says that we don't take care of our own, you go, hey, you're wrong. And when reporters do that, basically you should respond in the bottom and say, we have been doing it. And we're still doing it. That's why we're out here today. That's why we're coming to these rallies. That's why we're saying, you know what? Give us what the community needs first before you do something as noble as give inmates housing. What about the veterans? Gosh, the veterans have been needing housing for years. Oh my God. Come on. A blind and deaf person knows all of this. But what have we been getting? I'll tell you. Since December 18th, 2018 is when Blondale Commons at 1340 Blondale Avenue started to become aware to the community. January 29, 2020, 1400 Blondale for the 200-bed single men's shelter, which Sandy had spoke about. January 25th, 2021, 1682 Stillwell Avenue, proposed men's shelter. And I go on. July 16, 2021, the new site at 2443 Poplar. And the end of 2021, January 2022, the 140 single men's adult shelter at 2028 White Plains Road. We did, like I said, request a family shelter there, and they said because of Department of Building specificities that they would have to go through, it was not actually a good location for that. But we did request a shelter. So please, when everybody says, oh my God, Community Board 11, you guys are terrible. Okay, how dare you take away such a noble thing? I'm like, excuse me, it is a noble request to help with permanent housing. But think about what the community has been asking for. Do something there first. And let me tell you something. If we asked in their contract that if this particular location and if it goes sideways, will they stop and actually uninstall it? Tell me, do you really think that they would put that in there? Does the community have any insurance? No. That's why we're here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bernadette. Very good job. And, just to touch on something, that Bernadette was stating, communities get caught sometimes blindsided. But I want to make something clear, with the way the city charter. When a project of this nature, that the Bruckner Upzone with the TNA LLC, known as the Bavona Gang, or however you want to term them, they are not required to let the community know. They are not required. City planning suggests that they let the community know. Now, if you want to look at the city charter, it's sections 197 to sections 202. And clearly, that needs amending. Because the way things are going, there is a need for the political machine to increase population. And what do you think this is tethered to? I come to one conclusion. You may or may not agree, but it seems like there's been a real earnest effort throughout the state to increase population after Census 2020 came out and we lost that congressional seat. All as I know one thing, there's a lot of people coming in here in the next 10 years. I bet they want that seat back and maybe a couple more. Political power at the congressional level gives you political power at the state level and at the city levels. That's what it comes down to. It's a matter of power, political power, and investor greed. Because the investors are just looking to make money off the community. They want to monetize the community. So basically we're in a vice here. We're in a vice between the politicians and the developers and the unions. Because you can't leave out the unions. It would be unfair. And I was a union guy for a lot of years, but you got to call it like it is. And that's why councilperson deference is important. Because what it does, it shifts the power back to the people.
Right.
It makes politicians accountable. It does not let the developers, unions, and anyone else that has stake in monetizing a community have power. It gives the power back to the people. Now, with the population increases that are going on, I mean, it's amazing what they're doing because 2019, then Borough President Diaz came out with a very scathing report about the inefficient use of the school system. Schools are overcrowded to the max, and he cited a few different areas, and Bronx County was one of them. And it seems there's a disconnect between what is known as the SCA, the School Construction Authority, and Department of City Planning. The school construction authority makes a forecast. City planning makes a forecast. They are like so polar opposite, it's ridiculous. And they just got to get together, because this interagency disconnect is just hurting our children. And school's important. Education is the key to success in life. Without education, you really go nowhere. And with that, I want to bring up a good friend of mine, Dion Powell. He's going to talk a little bit about the education system and something about, I guess, maybe his theme would be choices. Thank you, Dion. It's a pleasure to have you.
Good evening, family. I'm County Committeeman Dion Powell of the 79th Assembly District. I want to say hello to all my community leaders here in the Northeast Bronx. We got Tizzy, we got Samantha Zerka, we got John Serini, we got Patrick McManus, we got Sal Russo in the back. Who I mentioned? Mike Henry just left. So all these guys are doing great work, and I'm here to support them. And thank you, George, again. And I just want to say to you guys, I'm very proud of you guys, because when you get cold, we get pneumonia in the South Bronx, and we're talking about education. And I want to say to the guys in the back that you're going to look at a racist right now, because this is what a racist looks like and why. I'm with an organization called Blexit, New York, and we're doing back to school choice events. Why are we doing this? The man said overcrowding was the past. Now, poor attendance is the future. A lot of our parents need support right now because it's a huge problem. Let's start with the migrants. I'm going to say this because why? I'm a racist. All the migrants from the Texas border are being stuffed into our shelter system. And once they go in the shelter system, a lot of people in the Bronx are surprised that all our black leaders from our black votes are letting into our shelter system. But did you know that they're fast-tracked in our shelter system, passing all our peaceful by, getting all the housing and amenities and fixings, and we're left stuck where we are. Now that brings us to education, because now all these people from the border have children. Their children have to go where? Into our public schools. Now, I'm not going to point out any educators I know that work for the school system, but sometimes you get one attendance sheet at the beginning of the semester, next week you get a different. So more and more kids. But there's a problem, though. The Department of Education doesn't have that problem because attendance in the public schools are abysmal. Why? Because of the mandates. And I'm here to tell you about that. We have one of our members at Blexit. She pulled her daughter from the school system a year and a half ago because she did not trust that vaccine. And she homeschooled her. What happened? Because of this one black woman's single mom's leadership, over 90 parents pulled their children from that one school. Can't have that. Can't have that. You can clap for her, but you can't have that, right? So now, what did the principal do? The principal called ACS on everybody. But this is deeper. This is citywide. Principals throughout New York City are calling ACS on all these minority single mom parents for doing the same thing, but trying to keep their children home safe because they don't want them vaccinated. The schools are not safe because they defunded the police, called the school safety agents. They're understaffed and children are running rampant. A lot of people don't know that school safety agents are single mothers from the community. And they're the only one that's going to break through these kids. Now, on top of that, with Blexit, we're doing a resource fair. We're going to have a pro bono lawyer for all the parents that want to fight the ACS case. We're going to have certain homeschool associations to help parents in our community to keep their kids home and homeschool them the proper way. You can't just keep your children home, think you keep them stuck. This is a withdrawal process. We're going to have the Children's Fund, which is going to give the funding for private schools, parochial schools, military schools. Because guess what? They're trying to say they need more money with less children, with more teachers. That doesn't make sense. Why do you need more money for more teachers if you don't have the kids? But you have the migrant kids. But guess what? Now, I was on the bus, and I ran into a kid that went to my high school, Cardinal Spelman High School. And I said, kid, you don't like this upzoning stuff. He said, yeah, I heard about that. My dad was talking about it. I said, well, you need to come to this meeting. He told me where the ice house was. I said, you know what? Next year, because of redistricting, you can run for office because this affects you too. Because now our school's chancellor is taking money from the private schools and putting it into public schools, but they're attacking the special education and disability students funding in the private schools to put it back into public schools will be useless, which makes no sense. So that was a personal fight for anybody in this room that sends their kids to Catholic school, parochial schools, and beyond. So right now in our workshop on Sunday, this Sunday, August 28th at 5 p.m., Tizzy has it, Samantha Zerga has it, George has it, Pat has it. On their cell phones, you can register. We're going to have specialists there to talk about the IEPs for your special children and also the IESPs, which is the equivalent on the private school sector, to make sure everybody has the resources and tools to support the families. At Blex in New York, we believe the parent is the first educator from 0 to 5, and that you have a right to your child, not the state. Not the principal, not the teachers, unfortunately, not the counselors, not the social workers, but the parents. So at Blex New York, we're having our event, Back to School Choice, to give the parents the options to send the child to any public school they want, give them the funding, resources, and scholarships they want to send their child to any private school they want, and if they want, we're creating new pods in the Bronx and beyond, support each other to educate their children from the comfort of their house. I'm Dion Powell again. Thank you very much. I have the information. Pat, the rest of these leaders, thank you so much. And I'm a racist, thanks to them.
Thank you, my friend. I just gotta say something about Dion. Dion's a great guy, but you know, Dion, you can't have no racist. Come on. When we go out to Arthur Avenue, you can't be ordering milk. Come on, you know better. But anyway, he's really good guy. Very involved. He's the best. Good guy. Now, you know, there's something that, you know, that's always touched upon, you know, with this upzoning. You know, you get hit with, well, you know, why don't you want this here? I mean, you know, where else can it go? You know, there's something that people don't understand called as of right development. There are many areas in this community that are what I would call a what you see is not what you get area. Sort of a zone of deception. If you want to reference and see it in person, one place you can go is down by Crosby Avenue, 1616, 1618 Crosby. Modest Victorian houses stood there. That particular parcel, that stretch of land, was already upzoned to R7. So those 3-family homes are they're now taken down, and they're soon to be home to 31 families each. So 6 families now become 62 families. And it's done as of right, meaning that as long as it's code compliant, doesn't need any building department approval. Just take it down, build it up. Community has no say. As of right development, AOR, is the most dangerous acronym for this community. Because if this upzone goes through, you're going to see a lot of as of right development. Don't kid yourself. They are putting you to sleep and feeding you a bunch of lies. There are plenty of places that are already zoned for housing of this nature in this community. There is no need to take away the low density growth management area. There's no need to take away the slice of suburbia. There is no need to take this away. They want to call us transit deserts, food deserts, every kind of desert. Well, we're a damn oasis. That's what we are. We're not a desert. I mean, come on now. An oasis. Desirable. Calling us a desert is disingenuous. People that don't want the stimulation simply don't move to communities that are low density. You want stimulation? You go to higher density neighborhoods. My daughter's one of them. I couldn't get her to live in my neighborhood. It's just too quiet. She likes the hustle and bustle of Long Island City. I say, God bless you. Enjoy. It's not for me. And this should not be a one-glove-fits-all city. It should be an inclusive city, a diverse city, a city that's going on under organic change. As I see in many low-density communities now, we have many minority families. And when you look at the demographics, our low-density communities, especially in CD 13, mirror New York City, where you're seeing a growing minority community. And to pull the rug out from under these people that now invested their hard-earned money.
Yeah, George.
Like that is racist. That is racist behavior. And you can parse it any which way you want. When people invest in something, they should get it. Our politicians have a fiduciary responsibility. When you get an IRA and you go to a financial guy, you trust them. You expect return on your money. You expect them not to lose your money. And they have a fiduciary responsibility to us to keep our communities and our quality of life at a level that we do not lose value of our quality of life. Because quality of life and home value is heaven, but home value is secondary. And I want to make that clear, secondary to quality of life. Because the bottom line is, if you don't have a quality of life in your neighborhood, in your community, you're not going to want to stay there. And you know that, and everyone else knows that. Now, it is my very great pleasure to be a very good friend of mine. And everybody knows him, the Bronx tax man. You can call him anything you want. It's Mr. John Sereni. John is a great friend of mine. John, it's all yours. Thank you, John.
Nobody could follow George after all that energy he has. So I got to start to build myself up. But yeah, the oasis that he's talking about, think about the developers. They're licking their lips right now thinking about the coastal community that we have. And if they can come here and build these houses and these buildings, and then they can flip them, like we said earlier, that's what they're going to do. They're going to flip them. So it's all about profit for the developers. They're trying to put themselves as champions of housing or whatever, whether they're saying affordable housing, not low-income housing, whether they're saying veteran housing and senior housing. They're trying to build themselves up as champions of housing for this community. And it has nothing to do with champions of housing. It's all about their greed. That's all it is. The Bavona boys and everybody else along Bruckner Boulevard and the Throggs Associates LLC, it's all about lining their pockets. So we've talked about so many things in all the rallies that we've had, and I wanted to try to bring something new. So you guys know the way the process works is that it starts with the community board. That went in our favor. It then goes to the borough president. She kind of said, well, I'm not okay with an 8-story, I'm okay with a 5-story. Then it went to the city planning. And so part of me wanted to know, who is the city planning? And so I wanted you guys to know the city planning is made up of 13 commissioners. And these 13 commissioners, where do they come from? Are they voted in by us? No, absolutely not. 7 of them are appointed by our mayor. 1 from each borough president gets appointed, and 1 from the public advocate. So who are these people beholden to? Are they beholden to us as the people of the community? Are they here to represent us, or are they here to represent the people that appointed them? Why are these positions an appointed position? It is both. They are there appointed by these politicians, and that's basically, they're all previous, well, I can't say all, but most of them are previously a council member themselves. Now, some of them, when you look at their bio, if you go on the New York City Planning Board website, you look at their bio, some of them have experience in construction and development. But none of them, I didn't see one of those members as a person like us from a local community that is not a politically affiliated person. So, again, I just want you to know, tomorrow they're taking a vote at the New York City Planning. Most likely, that plan's going to go against us because usually the city planning votes in favor of the developers. I wonder why, right? I mean, let's think about who appointed them. But I just wanted to let you guys know that that's how the city planning. Now, when they had their hearing last month, there was a lot of testimony against the upzoning. Yeah, there was a few, and if you guys were online, you saw it. There was a few in favor of it, but you know who they were? The people from Open New York. Open New York is an organization that's all about building buildings all over the city of New York, and all they're about is saying that they want more housing, they want more equality for people that can't afford. Well, guess what? Those apartments are not going to be affordable. The 1-bedroom apartments are starting at $1,675 a month. And you know they're going to be small apartments. I bet you anything, if we go around the crowd that we have here today, we have apartments that we're renting for less than $1,675 for a 1-bedroom that are probably going to be bigger and in better shape. Because we'll use real quality, not going to the cheapest stuff you can find in the local hardware or Home Depot. So for them to say affordable, it's BS again. I'm trying to keep my language clean. So the other thing that they talked about at the City Planning Board hearing was that they said that one of the things that we did, and I reached out to all of the city planning commissioners via email, because of course, try to find their phone number, you're never going to find it. It's just like I tried today as hard as I could to get a phone number for Mayor Adams, you're never going to find it. All you keep getting is 311. So I'd love to flood 311 and say we want to talk to Mayor Adams about this, but you're never going to get it. So, yeah. So, but what I did was I sent all the facts that we had from the environmental assessment statement that the Throggs Associates had done. And one of the things they had done was they held a traffic study in November of 2020. Now, if you guys remember, November of 2020, we were quarantined. We weren't allowed to go to work. We weren't allowed to go out. And they were holding a traffic study on Crosby and Bruckner in November of 2020 when no cars were out. I'm an insurance agent. One of the things that happened in November of 2020 is my insurance companies were giving refunds to people because they felt bad they weren't driving their cars. And they held a traffic study when cars were not on the road. So we demanded that they do another traffic study. Probably never going to happen. They also didn't take into account the 750,000 square foot distribution center, which is being built where Whitestone Multiplex was. This thing's not even completed yet. You got to think about how many trucks are going to be lining Bruckner Boulevard, causing traffic that's going to go up, all the way up. Now, by the way, if anybody, I passed out renderings of the buildings, the first 4 buildings that are going to come if this thing passes. And one of the buildings is down by Gifford and Bruckner. That is right by the distribution center. And they're claiming that after we complained, they're filling that building with veterans, they say. Doesn't matter who you're filling it with, it's still going to cause congestion and traffic, because if you're going to tell me that anybody in these buildings is not going to drive, you're absolutely insane. If you got 339 apartments, you're probably going to have more than 800 cars. So if you're telling me that they're not going to drive, you're insane. The traffic is going to build up and it's going to be chaos. So again, we demanded that they did another traffic study. We'll see tomorrow when they make their assessment if they even mention it. Now, I got to give credit to Commissioner Alfred Cerullo from Staten Island, because at least he brought it up. I sent them all the facts. Alfred Cerullo, Commissioner from Staten Island, I applaud you. You brought it up. But you know what? The people from Ackerman LLC, who's representing the Throggs Associates, what they said was, well, we hear your concern and we'll look into it. That's it. We hear your concern and we'll look into it. Can we get away with that? If you're getting audited by the IRS and the IRS said, hey, you know, you owe us $10,000. Well, I see your concern. I'll look into it for you. No. You have to give me a freaking answer. All right? So, again, they're getting away with this. I wanted to also tell you that I handed out a list of all the council members, because, as Alex said, the representative from Council Member Marjorie Velasquez, it's going to probably go to the council members this week, next week. Now, every time you guys sign the petition on stopupzoning.com, those people have been getting a generic petition with your name on it saying, you know, dear council member, I live in this community, this is my name, and I'm against this. But let's see if we can bombard them with individual emails. Now, you got that list. I know it's time consuming, but it's going to be worth it in the end. Send an email to each one of those council members. You can even like CC it, BCC it. Just type up one generic email and just say, I'm against this. I need you to know that you don't live in this community. I do. And this is the way we feel. Now, very important that on that list is also Councilmember Marjorie Velasquez's email. Now, she's endorsed by Open New York. And that's not acceptable. It is not acceptable. I've asked her to renounce that endorsement time and time and time again. At the Waterbury LaSalle meeting, I asked her, will you renounce that endorsement? Her response to me was, John, I already won the election. It doesn't matter if you won the election. Go to her website. It still says she's endorsed by them. We need her to take this serious, and we need her to renounce that endorsement. Now, why won't she renounce that endorsement? Probably because they make donations to her campaign. I mean, that's the only thing I could really think. Why else wouldn't you renounce an endorsement from an organization that you know is going to build up in your community and just demolish the quality of life we have? So I'm telling you, because I know Case is recording this. I know that Councilmember Marjorie Velasquez is going to see this. So again, I challenge you to please renounce that endorsement, because this is not an organization that is in the best interest of this community. Renounce it. Give it back. Take the side of the people who...
I sent you something on Twitter, okay?
Okay. So, also, I wanted to let you know that today I was reached out to by the people by a few of the many that are, getting together at 1900 Seminole Avenue. And what did they do? They asked me, hey, John, you, George, and Michelle, Andrew, and Joe, you guys have all been pretty good in putting together something here, and you're fighting this upzoning. So can you give us some tips? So we're going to be working together with them to fight in 1900 Seminole. Why? Because we're all one community. We're gonna do everything we can to help them in that community, to help anybody in the Allerton community, to help everybody in every part of the Bronx. Because if we don't stick together, it's like a virus. It's just gonna spread, right? The upzoning is gonna go building by building by building. The shelters are gonna go block by block by block. And we gotta stick together. So you guys have homework to do. I think I handed you guys a good assignment. If you don't have a piece of paper with all the council members' emails, come up, I'll give you one. This is the time. There's no more waiting. It's going as of tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, to the city council. Now this is what we've all been saying. Up till now, we knew we had other people voting on it. But that's it, it's all done now. Now it's going to the city council. So you guys need to really hit the pavement hard now. You need to go home, call your friends, get on social media, tell all your neighbors, tell your family, even if they don't live in this community, maybe they used to live in the community, maybe they want to move into the community, please have them send emails, have them make phone calls to Marjorie Velasquez, 718-931-1721. You guys should memorize this number by now. This is an important number. She has to invoke deference. Now, why is it so important that she invoke deference? I know George spoke about this, but see, if she doesn't get 2/3 of her colleagues to vote against this with her, what does that mean? That when it gets to the mayor can veto it, right? The mayor can say, well, even though you voted against it, I want it, and it's in. So she needs 2/3 of her colleagues to vote with her no. So if she comes back and says, hey guys, I tried, I got 10 people to vote no. No, we already know probably a dozen of them are gonna vote no. She's got a job to go out there and get the rest of them to say no. Now, why should they say no? Really, think about deference and think about where it came from. People who are representing their communities go back to the city council and the chambers, and there's 51 of them, right? And so they go back and they say, hey, I'm from Throggs Neck, Pelham Bay, Country Club, Locust Point, City Island, Edgewater Park. This is my community. And this is the community that I know and I represent, and you do not live in my community. If you want to come to my community, you're welcome to come. I'll give you a tour. But guess what? I know my people, I know my constituents, and I represent them, and this is what they're saying. They're saying they don't want this upzoning. They're saying they don't want this building at 1900 Seminole Avenue. They're saying they don't want the shelters on Blondell. And she needs to go there like a force to be reckoned with and say, I need you to vote with me. And when you need me to vote with you, that's what I'm there for. But if she can't get that done, we've had all these rallies for nothing because she's not getting the job done. So we need you tonight. Take this assignment, go home, make it happen. All right, guys? I am extremely grateful that you guys all come out to all these rallies. Thank you so much. And thanks to George because he puts together such an amazing event every time.
My pleasure, John. There's going to be one more speaker, but before I give it up to Samantha Zerka, I just want to expand on something as far as, we'll say the City Council Playhouse or the City Council Schoolyard. The City Council's comprised of 51 members, okay, obviously from different boroughs. There's a couple of council districts that intersect multiple boroughs. There's not too many, I believe 3. But anyway, the point I'm making out of the 51, there's something known in the city council as a progressive caucus. 34 of the 51 members identify or are listed as members of the progressive caucus. Our council member is one of them. Now, speaking with other council members that I have reached out to, it's not a big deal she's a member of Progressive Caucus, believe me, that's not the point I'm making here. The point I'm making is, any narrative that they don't play together nicely is BS. They go in lockstep with one another. They play in the sandbox very nicely with one another. So don't believe any narrative that, well, I wanted it, but they said no. The ineffective no vote is not going to work because we know better. All right? The bottom line is, if you're a member of that caucus and one member says to you, you know, jump, the other one says, how high do you need me to jump? You know, that's just how it is. Our council member sits on 7 committees, chairs 1. In the high school yearbook, that might make you the most popular student, right? That's how I look at it. So the bottom line is, trying to hide behind the shroud of any no votes from her fellow colleagues, it's orchestrated. I'm telling you that now. Don't believe it, because it's simply not true. As I said before, if she wants it to go away, it will go away. If she wants it to stay, it will stay. Plain and simple. Now, we're going to have to do some mobilization efforts. They're going to be going, and Michelle has a sheet here. Anyone that wants to get involved and help mobilizing, because we're going to be doing some things, I'm not going to blurt them out for Michael to distribute to all his colleagues, but that's another story. But anyway, we're going to need to get an effective ground game going. And, you know, and that's the way it is. And also, I noticed in attendance, I want to give a shout out, Amy right there, Amy over there, and she has been at all our rallies, and I just noticed her a little while ago, and she does unbiased reporting. I'm telling you the truth. Whatever is said here, she does not edit anything. What you see is what you get with her. If you say something, it's exactly the way it was done. There's no editing, no dubbing, no nothing. So, Amy, thank you for your unbiased ways. It's appreciated. And it's actually refreshing in this day and age. Now, John wants to just give, he wants to give a little shout out here, so we give the mic back to John.
Yeah, I'll be fast. So I have these posters which you guys can put in your car, you put on your house. But I want you to think about, as you're driving around this neighborhood, there's these signs all over the neighborhood, right? Now, some might have been put up by a few of us, but a lot of them were put up by one guy. This guy right here, Bob. Bob, thank you so much. Bob comes to my office on a regular basis and picks up like 100 of these, and he keeps putting them out, and he watches them, and you guys probably saw his video on Facebook that he videos them taking them down. So he keeps going. He's relentless. Thank you so much, Bob, because without you, these signs would not be up. God bless you.
Thank you, Bob. Bob's the man, let me tell you. He's better than 3 20-year-olds. I'm telling you that now. He's unbelievable. Now, our final speaker of the evening, it's my pleasure to bring up Samantha Zerka. Samantha has a lot to say, and it's condensed in a few words, but, you know, she has a powerful message. Thank you, Samantha.
Hello, everybody. My name is Samantha Zerka. I live here in Throggs next, so this project is going to affect me just as it is every single one of you. I wanted to ask if Mr. Pavona was here. Does anybody see him? Right? Because he doesn't live here. He lives far away. He lives in New Jersey with vast lands, surrounded by beautiful, massive gardens, possibly in a gated community, you know, with security at the front, right? But he wants to bring his get rich quick to our little quaint neighborhood. That's not going to happen. So I thought of some words that I thought I would write down and say to you. These out-of-town developers living in gated communities with vast land cured with green grass and massive gardens have decided to destroy our little quaint neighborhood in an effort to get rich quick on tax incentives. It seems to be a double jeopardy for us. We work hard as homeowners and as residents. We pay our taxes And it is these tax dollars that are now being used to destroy our way of life, our community, our infrastructure, our children's education, our safety, the quality of the air we breathe, and our daily activities in our just local routes. What used to be a 5-minute drive, I'm sure we all can see, is now 15, 20 minutes. Can you imagine how much more exasperated it's going to be with these monstrosities? 8-story building with approximately 240,000 square feet and close to 400 residential units. That is only project number 1. When will it end? The approval of this upzoning tomorrow will guarantee a new era in Throggs Neck, one that will result in our schools becoming even more crowded. Our parking worse than it already is. We can most likely expect alternate side parking influx in tickets because we will have to double park our cars. Our property values will deflate while our infrastructure, which is already overburdened, such as our hospitals. I heard a couple of people in recent times say that they spent a couple of days in the halls of a hospital, our local hospital. What is going to happen when this infrastructure takes its this project takes its place? Currently, a waiting time for our room in the hospital is a couple of days. This project will become a larger burden on our heavily defunded police department. We are riddled with crime. Our fire and our sanitation departments are also struggling. All past projects have done nothing for low income except provide them with false promises. These falsities that spew from the mouths of politicians and get-rich-quick developers are an age-old premise that is now reeking of decay. This is the case with 1900 Seminole Project. There they attempt to use words that will lend to more of their lies and manipulation rather than the truth, in that they will be housing criminals in our backyard, placing residents, seniors, children, and law-abiding citizens in harm's way. Our current politicians are using the Bronx and our communities as their dumping ground, all the while the race card as a basis to shun and stymie our voice. For their reference, we did not, as a community, choose Throggs Neck because it was lacking diversity. We chose this community because it is just that, a community of people of all races who value community and way of life. Both Throggs Neck and Morris Park communities are the most diverse communities in the Bronx. The same race-baiting, racist-calling politicians are those same people who defunded the police, which has caused a surmounting list of victims. Where are they when the families who are suffering tragedy after their children were snuffed from them? Where are they when the families bury those children? Where are they for the victims that have suffered rape or assault? Where are they for our seniors who are being beaten up in their buildings and in their place of residence? Where are they when our community streets need clean? We step out and we clean our own streets. I will tell you where they are. They are sitting back in their safe community, most likely gated for some, protected by their personal armed security, looking down at us like we're political pawns. These people of our community will not be fooled, swayed by political manipulation no more. You cannot use eloquent words or use the race card as a way to get your way anymore. We are people. We are hardworking, law-abiding, tax-paying people whose money will not be used as a tool to destroy our way of life. We must demand a no vote. We also must hold every politician accountable if they do not vote no. In addition, I say that since our taxpayer dollars are paying to destroy our way of life, we do not We do not accept the vote yes without taking it to court. We will not accept any court decision without full due process if it means going all the way to the Supreme Court. This is not about our lack of willingness to accept senior citizens, senior housing or veterans or low-income housing. It's about our way of life, our real property rights, our taxpayer rights. We pay taxes and as such should have a voice in the process that will permanently affect our livelihoods. The lack of planning on the part of the government should not and will not constitute an emergency or restitution on our part. Giving up our way of life is a form of restitution. Thank you.
Thank you, Samantha. Good
Look
job.
at you! Look at you!
Yeah, and just to sum up part of what Samantha's message is, this has never been a who issue, and that's how it was portrayed. This is not about who comes in to the community. This has always been a what issue, what they are going to do to our zoning. Because the bottom line is this: once it's gone forever. And I told you already, as of right development, contextual zoning, and if they start us at an R5, which they are talking about, that is city planning's words. I pushed back at them at St. Benedict's and they told me no, and then I pushed back some more, and you know what? They didn't have an answer for me anymore. You know why? Because I was right, and I stand by that. And if they want to challenge me, show me where you didn't say it. I'll show you where you did say it. The bottom line is they are out to destroy a way of life. The low density community is going to be a dinosaur if they let this go. We are just going to be a relic, and we cannot let that happen. We need to mobilize. Michelle has a list here. Anybody willing to put time in? Please see Michelle, sign up, give some information, because this is far from over. And remember this, if this goes through, it's not the end game. There's going to be more to fight. But the thing is, we got to hope for victory here and be ready for another battle. Because even if we do win this, and I should say when we do win this, because I really think we have a damn good chance at beating this thing, they are not going away. They're going to flip those properties. Somebody else is coming back to try and do something else. So we got to be prepared. And if we're not prepared, shame on us. Because they already told us what they're going to do. If somebody tells you they're going to punch you in the mouth and you let them, shame on you. You deserve to get punched. Guys, we got to put our guards up. We got to mobilize. We are in a war. And remember one thing. In every war, battles can be won. And this is one battle that can be won. And to iterate what John said, it's going to take a massive presence at the city council hearing. We're talking well over 100 people are going to have to go to speak or sign up on Zoom. It doesn't matter if it takes them 6, 8, 10 hours for the hearing. They have to know how this community feels. And the bottom line is, I know by the amount of signatures we've got, there are thousands of people that don't want this. They may not be here in present, but the bottom line is we know how they feel. And they will log on to Zoom or write letters or whatever it has to be to address this thing. And I want to thank you all for coming out tonight, because like I said, it's you that put the U in unity, and we are, the only way it takes this to win this is with community unity, and it's into community unity. We're in this together, we're going to fight this together, and we're going to win a trifecta together. All three of these things are going to be won. And I thank you, God bless you, and God bless our community.
Common sense!